You see, people throw that word around, lazy, like it means something simple, like it explains you, like it tells the whole story, but it doesn't, it never has, because what's called laziness, more often than not, is actually a kind of quiet suffering, a paralysis, not of the body, but of the soul. It's the result of too many burdens carried for too long, of unmet needs and unheard cries. You're not lazy, you're overwhelmed, exhausted, disoriented, maybe even wounded in places you haven't dared to look at in years. Now think about this for a moment. If you had a broken leg, nobody would expect you to run a marathon. But if your heart's broken, if your sense of self has been shattered by years of criticism, by rejection, by trauma, by a complete lack of encouragement, people still expect you to just get up and perform, no questions asked, no space given, and when you don't, they call you lazy. That's not only unfair, it's a grotesque misjudgment of human nature. Every behavior has a reason, and behind what you call procrastination, what you call slowness, what you call not being productive, there's usually a complex mixture of fear, fatigue, and shame. And let me tell you something about shame. It is a silent killer, because it doesn't scream, it whispers. It whispers lies like, "You're worthless. You'll never get it right. Everyone else is moving forward, why can't you?" And when that voice becomes the background music of your life, no wonder your motivation disappears. No wonder you freeze when it's time to act. You're not weak. You're responding intelligently to pain that hasn't been healed yet. And I know people don't like hearing that. They want quick fixes, 10 steps to productivity, 5 hacks for better focus. But you can't hack your way out of internal bleeding. You need honesty and healing and time. You need to stop asking, "Why can't I work harder?" and start asking, "Where am I hurting?" Because that question, that shift in perspective, changes everything. It transforms blame into understanding. It turns judgment into compassion. It turns stuckness into movement. You've got to remember that a lot of what we call laziness is actually self-protection. It's your mind saying, "I can't handle one more failure. I don't want to open that email because I know it contains disappointment. I'm avoiding that project because I've tied my entire self-worth to how it turns out." That's not laziness. That's fear disguised as apathy. But here's the truth. You are capable, far more capable than you believe. There is potential in you that has been buried under years of noise and pain and distraction. And the path forward isn't about forcing yourself to move harder or faster. It's about moving more truthfully. It's about reconnecting with the part of you that still wants something. The part of you that dreams, that aches, that reaches. Because even if you've been sitting in silence for months, even if you feel like your life is going nowhere, even if the world has written you off, you're still here. You're still listening. You're still breathing. That means something. That matters. And if you can begin to see yourself not as a failure, not as lazy, but as someone who's been fighting a quiet war within, and still has the will to rise, then you've already taken the first step toward transformation. Don't let anyone, not even yourself, reduce your struggle to a label, because what you carry is deeper than they know. And what you're becoming is stronger than they can imagine. You'll get it shortly. Stay ready. This one will hit, and here's the real twist. It's not just pain that holds you down. It's the story you've told yourself about that pain. See, after you've been through enough disappointment, after you've failed enough times, after people have looked you in the eye and made you feel like you weren't enough, your mind doesn't just store the memory, it starts building a narrative, a script, and it sounds like this: "I'm just not good at this. I don't have what it takes. Maybe I'm just not meant for more." You don't wake up one day and decide to stop trying. It's far more subtle than that. You wake up and feel a little more tired than usual. You look at the goal you once obsessed over, and now it feels like a mountain you're too weak to climb. So you scroll, you distract, you delay, you call it laziness. But what it really is a mind protecting itself from more failure. A spirit that's been wounded too many times to risk another hit. And here's the dangerous part: the more you avoid, the deeper that story roots itself in your identity. And suddenly, your potential isn't just locked behind effort, it's trapped behind belief. You don't just feel stuck, you believe you are stuck. And look, it's not your fault that you got hurt. Life isn't fair. Some of you were thrown into environments that crushed your confidence before you even had a chance to build it. Some of you had parents who didn't believe in you, teachers who ridiculed you, friends who mocked you the second you tried something new. So what did you do? You stopped. You played small, not because you were weak, but because being invisible felt safer than being rejected. But here's the thing nobody told you: healing from that isn't just about time, it's about truth. It's about confronting the lies you've agreed to. Because if you keep calling yourself lazy, if you keep labeling yourself like a finished product, you'll never give yourself the grace to grow. Laziness is not a character flaw, it's a signal, a message from your mind saying, I'm scared, I'm tired, I don't know how to trust myself anymore. So maybe it's time we stop punishing ourselves for not being robots. Maybe we need to stop treating motivation like a switch that should always be on, and start seeing it like a fire that needs tending, that needs oxygen, space, patience. You want to know why you haven't been consistent? Because you've been trying to build a tower on a foundation of shame. You've been trying to force discipline on top of wounds you never cleaned. And discipline built on shame will always collapse, not because you're weak, but because it's not sustainable. So what do? You stop chasing perfection, and you start rebuilding trust. You set one promise to yourself, small, clear, and achievable. You keep it, then you set another, and slowly you realize something. You're not broken. You're not defective. You were just buried, under fear, under pain, under all the noise the world threw at you. But you're still in there, the real you. The one that dreams big, that wants more, that knows you're meant for something greater. And the second you start believing in that again, even just a little, everything begins to shift. Because the truth is, you're not lazy, you're wounded. And healing that wound, that's not weakness. That's the beginning of strength. Let's go there. Let's stop running from it. Let's face it, because on the other side of that pain is you. Fully alive, finally free. Now here's where things get real and uncomfortable. Because even after you realize you're not lazy, even after you understand that your so-called lack of motivation is just unresolved pain dressed in disguise, there's another layer. A deeper trap. You're addicted to the comfort of what you know, even if it's killing you. See, your brain is designed to keep you alive, not to keep you fulfilled. That means it'll always choose the familiar over the unknown, even if the familiar is mediocrity, even if it's regret, even if it means living 10 steps beneath your actual potential. And I get it. Comfort feels safe. Numbing yourself with distractions, choosing the easier path, lowering the bar. It gives you this temporary relief. You tell yourself, I'll start tomorrow. Maybe next month will be different. I just need to feel ready. But let's be honest, you've been saying that for years. And deep down, you know this, that comfort is a cage. It's padded and warm, sure, but it's still a cage. And every time you avoid the uncomfortable thing, that task, that conversation, that dream, the bars of that cage get tighter. And what makes it worse? You start building an identity around that cage. You tell yourself, well, I'm just the kind of person who can't focus. I'm not really disciplined. I've never been consistent. And once those beliefs take root, they don't just shape your actions, they limit your entire life. You weren't born with those limitations. You adopted them through years of struggle, setbacks, and silent pain. But just because something feels real doesn't mean it's true. And just because comfort feels good doesn't mean it's right. Here's what nobody tells you. Growth feels like anxiety. Discipline feels like self-betrayal at first. Becoming the next version of yourself. It's not clean, it's not aesthetic, and it's definitely not comfortable. Because the truth is, progress is inconvenient. You won't want to wake up early. You won't want to sit with your emotions instead of running to your phone. You won't want to keep showing up when nobody claps for you, when the views don't come, when it feels like no one sees how hard you're trying. But that's the crucible. That's where the real change happens, when you decide to lean into discomfort on purpose. You don't just heal by understanding your pain. You heal by choosing differently, moment by moment, even when your mind begs you to stay the same. And if you're sitting there thinking, "But I don't know if I'm ready," you probably aren't. But the point isn't to feel ready, it's to act in spite of it. You think discipline starts with motivation. No. Discipline starts with rebellion. A rebellion against the version of yourself that gave up before. A rebellion against comfort, against apathy, against the small, timid voice inside your head that says, "Play it safe." You fight back. Not with anger, but with consistency. Not with rage, but with resolve. Every single time you choose discomfort on purpose, you chip away at the identity that held you back. And eventually it breaks. And beneath it, you discover someone you haven't met in a long time, you. The real you, the you that remembers the dream, the you that's relentless, the you that doesn't flinch when it gets hard because you've already lived through worse and survived. This isn't about becoming someone new. This is about returning to who you were before the world dimmed your fire, before fear took over, before the comfort of survival became your ceiling. You're not stuck. You're just afraid. And fear is a liar, but only if you stop listening to it. So stand up, choose discomfort, and remind the world and yourself that you were never lazy. You were just waiting to finally wake up. And now we reach the final layer, the one that most people never dare to confront. It's not just your habits. It's not just your pain. It's not even your fear of discomfort. It's the fact that deep down you don't believe you're worthy of the life you want. And I don't mean you say that out loud. No one does. In fact, most of you walk around pretending you're just unmotivated, or too busy, or waiting for the right moment. But if you look closely, really look, you'll see the truth. You've tied your identity to your failures. You've internalized years of shame, judgment, criticism, and silence. And somewhere along the line, you started to believe that maybe, just maybe, you don't deserve more. And that belief, it's poison. It quietly infects everything. You sabotage opportunities. You procrastinate on your dreams. You stay in environments that shrink you. You surround yourself with people who don't challenge you, because rising up would mean outgrowing them. And you don't want to feel alone. You'd rather play small and be accepted than grow and be misunderstood. But here's the devastating part: when you don't believe you're worthy of healing, of success, of joy, of greatness, you will never sustain it. You'll get glimpses of it, sure. Maybe you'll start something. Maybe you'll even get a few wins. But subconsciously, you'll always find a way to pull yourself back to the version of you that matches your belief. That's why the real battle is internal. It's not you vs the world. It's you vs the story you tell yourself about who you are and what you're allowed to have. And that story, it didn't start with you. It started with people who couldn't see your worth: parents, teachers, friends, even society. People who projected their own pain onto you. People who made you feel too much or not enough. People who didn't realize that their words were becoming the blueprint of your self-image. But just because that story was written for you doesn't mean you can't rewrite it. You are not your past. You are not your trauma. You are not the kid who failed the test, or the teenager who gave up, or the adult who's still trying to figure it out. You are the one who chooses what comes next, but you have to claim it, not with noise, not with a fake smile and fake hustle. You claim it in the quiet moments when nobody's watching, when you wake up and decide no more. No more running from who you are. No more settling for crumbs. No more apologizing for having a dream that scares you. You reclaim your worth every time you honor your word. Every time you show up when it's inconvenient. Every time you keep going after the motivation disappears. That's how you rebuild belief, not with affirmations, but with action. And yes, you'll stumble. Yes, you'll doubt. But every time you keep going, even when that voice inside says, "Why bother?" that's another crack in the wall you've built around your potential. This isn't about hype. It's not about trends or algorithms or hustle culture. It's about remembering that your life, your one life, is worth fighting for. And if you don't believe it yet, that's okay. Just start acting like you do. Your belief will catch up to your behavior. Because you weren't born to live in survival mode. You weren't born to blend in. You weren't born to sit quietly in the back while the fire inside you dies a slow death. You were born to build something, to lead something, to feel deeply, to move others, to stand for something that matters. And that begins the moment you stop asking, "Am I good enough?" and instead decide, "I'm going to become the person who doesn't need to ask that anymore." That's where everything changes. That's where you finally come alive. And here's something most people don't want to hear. The final piece of this puzzle. Even if you heal the past, even if you train discipline, even if you build belief, there's still one more truth you have to face. You must take responsibility for everything from this point forward. Now I know that word responsibility makes a lot of people tense up. It feels heavy, and why wouldn't it? In a world obsessed with blame, it's easier to point fingers. It's easier to say, "It's the system, it's my parents, it's the economy, it's my mental health." And listen, I'm not here to invalidate any of that. Those things are real, they affect you, they shape you. But they do not define what you do next. There is a line between what happened to you and what you choose to do with it. And that's the line most people never cross. Because once you step over that line, you can't hide anymore. You can't keep waiting for someone to come save you. You can't use your pain as a permanent excuse. And here's the uncomfortable part: taking responsibility doesn't guarantee results. It just guarantees growth. And that's what you're really after, isn't it? To grow, to evolve, to become someone you can respect in the mirror, not just someone who gets likes or approval. The truth is, no one is coming to do it for you, not your friends, not your partner, not your boss, not some motivational speaker on a stage, and certainly not some miracle on a Monday morning. It's you. Always has been, always will be. That's the harsh beauty of it all. The same hands that were once used to build your cage are the ones that can tear it down. You are the author now. You decide what the next chapter looks like. And that doesn't mean you have to fix everything overnight. It means you stop outsourcing your power to things outside of your control. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop asking for permission to rise. You start doing the small things consistently. You start choosing alignment over comfort. You start treating your future self like someone you deeply care about. And here's something powerful. You don't need motivation to begin. You just need one decision, one moment of clarity, one act of rebellion against the life you've been tolerating. That's it. Momentum doesn't come from waiting. It comes from moving. You have no idea how close you are to the version of you've been chasing. But you'll never find it if you keep living like your past is more powerful than your potential. I want you to imagine for a second, what would your life look like 6 months from now if you stopped waiting, stopped blaming, and started building? What would shift if you approached each day with the attitude of "it's on me, and I'm ready for it"? Because the deeper truth is, most people aren't lazy. They're afraid of what they might become if they really tried. Because deep down they know, the moment they give their all, they lose the excuse. And that's terrifying. But not for you, not anymore, because now you know. Now you've seen the layers. You've faced the emotional roots. You've understood the role of pain. You've shattered the lie of unworthiness. You've stood in front of the mirror and finally told the truth. So what comes next is simple, not easy, but simple. You take ownership. You build momentum. And you do it, not because it's fair, or because life owes you anything, but because you owe it to yourself. This is the moment where the victim ends and the builder begins. And you, my friend, were born to build.